I don't know how many of you out there are thinking to be in sound, and don't worry if you know the answer or not, because most likely it will just happen organically. But sound department is, I would say, our primary objective is to capture actors' dialogue. That is the main purpose of it. Um, Whatever they do with like Foley sound and certain sound effects, that is usually done in post production, whether it's adding gunshots or adding footsteps or adding the sound of waves crashing, whatever it is, that's usually done in post. But a production sound mixer's job, the production sound team's job, is to record the actor's dialogue. And it is, I would say, one of the most underappreciated departments in film because and I'm not the only one who said this. A lot of people have said this, but most of the people who are on set are worried about picture, and only we are concerned about the sound. Everybody else is thinking how good does it look? Art department is all about how it looks. The camera is about how it looks. Lighting is about how it looks. So the only people who care about the sound are the sound department and the director. And sometimes the directors don't even really know about sound. They just trust us to do the job. So so
Yeah,
now
I guess I would say I know that. I never really felt that way, but I could see that maybe more with like TV shows and feature films because they're like, well, if we don't get it, we can do the best we can. We got to get the picture. If we don't get it, we'll just bring them in. I mean, these actors are hired; they're working for us, so we can just bring them in and get it replaced. So, of course, the main thing is they
yeah.
got to get the production shot. For commercials, they can't get them in. Like if you're dealing with celebrity talent or certain people, they're not going to have maybe the budget to bring them in. So they're like, oh no, we got to get this, and then they really all do really care about the sound. So it just depends. But
Yeah, I shouldn't say that the production doesn't care about sound. I'm saying
yeah,
the people, the crew members who work in the different departments, they're not concerned. Everybody's just trying to do their own job and get it
yeah,
done.
yeah,
So so that's what I mean by everybody else is there
yeah,
when they're on set, they're trying to get whatever it is to look good on camera,
yeah.
whereas they're not thinking about how it's going to sound.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah,
are
yeah.
the ones we are the only ones, the only crew members at least who are thinking about the sound.
Exactly. Yeah, and if I wasn't doing sound, I would be one of those people for sure. I would
Yeah.
be totally not even thinking about sound and laughing and making noise and shuffling around saying, "Oops, sorry." I would do this all the time. That would be
And
me.
people do it all the time. You cannot get crew members to shut up
That's
because they don't
right.
think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I should okay. I shouldn't say that that's really like a big challenge. Obviously, you're on set. People are professional. People know to be quiet.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that we have the weight of a very important task to do on our shoulders. We have to get the actor's performance, and is solely up to the sound department to do that.
Yes.
So when you think about what sound department does, probably the image you have in mind is a guy holding a boom pole. It's a guy holding a pole with a microphone on the end of it. And that is one of the jobs in sound department is the boom operator. And that is a very important job. It weighs on you physically, but that is not the only thing that goes into sound department. That's just one small part of what we do in sound department. It's all about actually making it sound good, and that means controlling the environment too. So let's just imagine you walk into a room and there are noisy objects. The air conditioning's on. There is a refrigerator running, freezers. There's all sorts of things making noise. You have to make sure that you've controlled all of those noises. And it's not solely up to you. There's locations department, which is actually more so in charge of that. You talk to locations and make sure that you can shut certain things off. But what if it's a neighbor down the road with a leaf blower on location? That does happen, and that's also part of your job is to listen to those sounds and make sure that they get shut off. And that's usually locations department again who goes and talks to the neighbor and asks them to shut off their leaf blower. but it's sound department who has to be in charge of that, because if the sound department says we're good to go, and then it turns out that, oh, we can't use that because whatever that background noise is too loud, it's just the take is unusable, well, that falls on sound department.
Yep. And they'll say, why didn't you say anything? You're like, well,
Yeah.
you're making a decision whether it's usable or not, borderline or not. Sometimes you get used to the environment around you. Sometimes it's just a tough call. And people have different opinions too. Somebody later might go, yeah, we can deal with that. We can get rid of that sound. And other people will say, this is, who recorded this? This is too noisy. This shouldn't have been recorded like this. So, yeah.
Now it gets more complex than that. It's simple things that most people will not think of unless they've trained their ears to listen very carefully. So I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say I'm an actor, and in the scene I'm drinking from a cup, and I say a line of dialogue, and I'm talking, and then I slam this down, and now it makes a noise over my dialogue.
Yeah.
That's really distracting, right?
Yeah.
So I've just made a loud noise right there that distracts what
Unusable.
the actor is saying.
You made
it's
it
unusable.
Unusable.
So what do I do about that? Now, obviously, most actors are probably aware that this is happening. They've done so many movies, they know better. But it's still your job as the sound department to make production aware that this is happening. So normally you won't just go straight to the actor and tell them what to do, because that's not your job to talk to actors and guide their performance. But you could talk to the first AD and voice your concern and say, is it possible for that cup to hit the table in between lines of dialogue, so that way we don't hear it over the line?
Instead of going up to the AD and saying, hey, the actor is slamming down the glass right on his line, you would say, hey, is there any way that the actor could say his line in between putting the glass down? Different way to say it, but it makes the actor who's listening to this feel better. Oh yeah, there is a way I can do that, sure. And it also puts words in the mouth of the first AD, who will then say, hey, is there any way that you can blah, blah, blah. This is one of the things that you do when you're really good, is you start to think about, how do I want to say this so that they can repeat it and look good and move the production forward. So you said it perfectly.
You don't want to tell them what to do. You just want to make them aware that it's happening, so that way they can decide whether they want to make the changes or not. The director might say, no, I like how it is.
Yeah.
And as long as the director understands, we might have to ADR this scene because that line of dialogue is probably not usable. As long as they understand that and they're okay with it, it's up to them.
Yeah.
But you have to make them aware of it.
Yeah. I want to emphasize again, because it is such a strong teaching point, how you say things on set is why you get hired. Doing the job, technically, anybody can do it. But how you are on set, what you say, that's why I'm getting hired. It's the way that we're thinking on set, the way we, just our whole vibe, just even the tone of voice.
Yeah, and you have to, you actually have to manage both, because a lot of it is just how you carry yourself professionally. If people like you, they like your personality, you are pleasant to work with, they want to hire you. But then you also have to know the job, and you have to get the job done really well. Because I could be very polite and not step over any toes, but then if the sound is bad and it gets to post and they're like, who hired this sound team that sounds terrible? Well, then you're not going to get hired again. So you have to do your job really well, but then you also have to do it, in a way where you are respecting people like to work with you, you are getting what you need without being pushy.
Yeah.
So you have to have a fine balance between both of those.
Yep.
Personality and also knowing your job and getting it done, and being aggressive, but without having an aggressive personality.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not afraid to speak up, and like if I'm booming a feature or whatever it is, and I have to speak up and say something along the lines of, the sound is not usable right now, there's, what is there we can do about it? I'm not afraid to speak up in front of the crowd and make the point known. but you have to do it in a way that is professional.
Yeah, that's another great point. Is sometimes I'll hire people that come from different, like they do TV or something where they're not speaking up usually. In commercials, you, it's kind of like documentaries. You have to get it. You know, you can't just be quiet and just, because we're not going to cover it. We're not doing ADR later. It's so. Yeah, I've had some people that were just very timid on set, and I'm want them to say I need them to be able to speak up. But then it's important how they say it. So I'm as a mixer, I'm judging whether or not they're capable of saying things in the way that I want them to say it, and sometimes it's not the case. And then I wish I was working with Tamara, who always says everything perfectly. But yes, how you say things is so freaking important, as I just made the same point again and again. But anyway, you get it.
And another thing I'll say is this is a department where personality is key, and especially if you are the boom operator, because I'll give you a quick rundown. There are, on a big budget set, there are 3 people in the sound department. There's the sound mixer, the boom operator, the sound utility. The sound mixer is the head of the department, but the sound mixer is usually stationary on a big budget set. They are at a sound cart with their equipment, and they are simply recording the dialogue that's being captured. But the boom op is on set because it's the person with the big microphone recording the dialogue. So the boom op is on set, and the boom op is actually the face of the department. So you have to have a really good personality if you want to be a boom op, or just if you want to work in sound department, because one of my mentors said this, that when you're working in sound, you need everything from every other department, but they don't need anything from you. So, for example, if you need an Apple box, who do you ask? You ask the grips. So you have to be really good friends with the grips, because you might need an Apple box one day, and they don't have to give it to you because it's not your department, it's their department. So something as simple as that, needing a ladder, needing a sandbag, needing an Apple box, you have to be friends with every other department because you may need those things one day. Same thing if you need a lighting adjustment, which I'm not saying it happens all the time, but sometimes if there is a light that's causing too much shadow on an actor, and like the lighting department has already signed off on it, but you know that this is going to be difficult for you to boom it because it's going to cast a shadow on the actor. There is a way that you could talk and finagle with lighting and just see if they could adjust it and have it look the same but not cast as many shadows on the actor. So these are things that as a boom op you need to be aware of. And that's why you have to have such a good personality to talk to these other departments, because you cannot demand it. You have to ask it politely, and they can say yes or no.
Yep. That is just gold, what you're saying. You're explaining this so well. Good job. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm gonna say it again. To work in sound department, have a very good personality, but also you have to know the job, and it's very technical. There's a lot of gear to know, so you have to really up your game to work in this particular department, because there's a lot of techniques to do the job. There's a lot of different types of gear, a lot of different types of microphones, a lot of different types of sound mixers that are used on the jobs. And every set that you get onto, if you're working with a different sound mixer, they might have a completely different gear package that they're working with. So kind of the same if you're in camera department. On one set, you might be working with an Arri Alexa, and another one you might be working with a Sony camera. On another one, you might be maybe you're working on a Panavision 35 millimeter film camera. So whatever it is, on every different set, you're going to be working with this different gear. So same in sound department, you're going to be working with all different sorts of gear, and it's very technical, and you have to know your stuff to get the job done.
Yeah. And it looks easy, you guys. You might watch these people and you might be, oh, all the guy's doing is holding the boom and putting some mics on people, big deal, you know? And I'll have PAs going, hey, I would love to be I'd love to boom. make $600 a day. Here's my card. I'm like, well, what have you worked on? Oh, just boomed on a couple other commercials for other mixers, but they are not that, they're just filling in. They haven't committed to the craft. They don't know how to wire, they don't have their own kit, they don't know about lighting, they don't know about shadows, they don't know about the language, they don't know about all this stuff that we've already talking about. But yet they want to get paid $600 a day to boom. You come across this too. That's annoying to us, by the way. We don't like that. So if you're going to do sound or any department, don't think it's like so easy. Like, you know, Stacy doing props. You know, a lot of people like, oh, I love to help out in props, be a prop master. Do you know all the details to this job? Commit to it, you know, to learn it, and think and just know that, hey, there is a lot to know to master it. You cannot come on the set and boom after just like working with a couple of commercial mixers and get paid $600 a day. Oh yeah, this is a great job. You don't get it. So make sure that if you want to do sound, that you're committing to it and you're going to go out there and do what Patrick did, was to start off doing mixing and learning and interviews and just again and again and shoot after shoot after shoot to get good.
So I'm gonna name just a list of some things that come to mind, projects that I've worked on, TV shows, commercials, feature films. So in the last few years, I've worked on Zombieland Double Tap. I've worked on MacGyver seasons 2 and 3 as a day player. I've worked on Stranger Things season 3 as a day player. I've worked on The Resident seasons 2 and 3. I've worked on a few reality TV shows. One is called Iyanla Fix My Life. One is called Married to Medicine. One is called Love After Lockup. And again, as a day player, I've worked a few days here and there on each one of those shows. I have worked on several promo videos and commercials. I did a commercial with Shaquille O'Neal, who is very tall, by the way, but I'll tell that story another time. I've done a commercial with Chase Elliott, the NASCAR driver for Mountain Dew. I have done a few different Gorilla Glue commercials. I have done sit-down interviews with different celebrities. I've done interviews with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I've done interviews with Charles Barkley. I've done interviews with CEOs of different companies.
When you do interviews, you're making how much a day?
So when I'm doing sound, okay, so the highest that I've ever gotten paid for a gig up to this date is $1,100 per day. $1,100. Now when I get paid for doing sound mixing, I'm getting paid for labor plus gear. So my sound package is actually a separate cost that they have to pay. So labor and gear combined, I walk away with $1,000 a day. In some cases, maybe $800 a day. It just depends on the project, but $1,100 is the highest paid job that I've gotten so far, and that was for the Mountain Dew promo with Chase Elliott.
Very, very good. Okay. So all of these shows, look, he's got commercials, he's got feature films, he's got TV shows, he's got a lot of variety, interviews, everything. And now this is a question I haven't asked you before, I don't think. And what's the difference between what we're doing with A-List and like going to film school?
So I don't think film school really teaches you what you need to know about getting into the film industry.
Because you went to film school.
Yeah. So I actually went to film school. I had certain reasons for going to film school because I'm passionate about the film business. I'm passionate about creating. And when I was in film school, I was directing and producing short films. So I got a different experience working on films in college versus getting out into the real world and actually being in the film business. So the big thing that film school doesn't teach you, they teach you about the art, they teach you about the history of film, they teach you how to make a film, but they don't teach you how to actually get a job on a film set. And that is the biggest thing missing from film schools, and that is exactly what you get with the A-list. Is you get a play-by-play. These are different ways that you can get jobs in the film industry, and this is how you stand out as somebody with get it factor, which also is not taught in any schools. There is no such thing as a school that teaches get it factor. I mean, I think the closest that comes to that is somebody like Tony Robbins, or people that you pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go and see a seminar. They teach you those kind of things, how to be your best self. But in A-list, you get all of that. You get training how to be your best self, and you get training how to be in the film business and how to stand out on set and how to keep on getting called back for gig after gig after gig. And
And
that's the kind of training that you get with the A-list versus film school, which only teaches you the art and how to make a film, but doesn't actually teach you how to get a job on a film set. I remember when I first got a sound mixing job, and I was like, "What? They're going to pay me $400 a day? Like that's insane. I've never gotten paid $400 a day to do anything."
I
And
know.
that was a big deal at the time. Now I would look back at $400 and be like, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth my time, or maybe I should pass on this gig and see if I can hold out for a higher paying gig.
Might you, when you are offered a $400 gig, might you think about some people that are on your list that are starting out that you could send that work to?
Absolutely. So this is why it is key to decide what department you want to be in and start getting trained in it. Because let's imagine I get called for two different gigs on the same day. I get called for gig A and gig B, and gig B is kind of like, I don't know if I want to take it. I'm probably gonna take gig A, but who do I get to take gig B? Because I want to make sure that somebody I trust gets this job. And because I need to refer somebody good, they need to make me look good because I was referred this job. So I'm going to reach out to anybody I know who is good and I know is going to show up and be professional. It could be somebody that I've personally taken under my wing and I've trained them.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could just be another sound mixer that I've worked with before who's referred me work, so I want to refer that person work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're being trained by me and I can trust you and I know that I can send you on a job, I will definitely refer work your way. But that's only if you're in that department, you've decided you're going to be in it, and you've done a lot of jobs already in that department.
And how are they going to meet somebody like Patrick? On set. It's really going to be on set.
So get on shoots. It doesn't matter how you get on shoots. It doesn't matter if you have to work as background, as a PA, or in another department that you don't want to work in, but it gets you on set. Get on set, meet people, and that is how you make friends in the industry, and that's how you get to know what department you want to be in.
What kind of person are you going to choose to teach and to help out with? What kind of person? What would you be looking for? What would you ask them?
A lot of it's intuition. Like I can just tell if you're a good person or not, or if you're serious or not. But I have an example. If you, let's say you meet me on set and I'm working as the sound mixer. It's like a low budget student film or something. And you come up to me, you're a PA on set, and you're asking me questions about sound, and you seem like you're kind of interested in working in sound. But let's consider one situation where it's like, I kind of thought about dabbling in sound. I'm not even going to take you seriously because you're not serious at the moment. You're just kind of wanting to dabble in the department, but I'm not going to waste all that time to give you advice and train you and all that stuff. But let's just say you already have some background in sound, but you happen to be working as a PA on set. And I'm not saying you have like a lot of background doing it, but let's say you've already done some of the research, you've already maybe worked on some other student films as a boom op, and then you come up to me and you're like, like I'm really excited to know more about sound. I already have some experience, but I really want to learn all the ins and outs. Like my wiring isn't that good, but I really want to learn how to wire talent better. And if you're asking me like intelligent questions, so what kind of microphone are you using?
Mhm.
Okay, so is this one better for indoors or for outdoors? What kind of lavs are you using? And you're like, you're really getting into it and you're asking me intelligent questions. Like, I see you're so serious. You've already done some of the research. Of course, I want to take you under my wing and I'm going to want to train you, because next time I get called for like this low budget kind of student film that I don't want to do, I'm going to refer you to do the sound. And if I have nothing to do that day, if my equipment is ready and available and I trust you, I'll give you my gear. If I'm training you, then I want you to have the best gear possible, and I just make sure that you know how to use it first. So that's what happens. But that only happens once you have a good rapport with the person
Mhm.
and you see that they're very serious.
You betcha. I memorized every piece of equipment. I memorized every, it was my life. I was totally obsessed with it. And this is how I want you guys to be too. Be completely, totally obsessed with it. Like Lauren is studying every single little thing. She's writing, she's doing the, looking at the lenses, she's in the camera houses. She's just completely obsessed. Patrick was completely obsessed.
Yeah.
Some people think it's kind of cool to just say, yeah, I would possibly do that, and thinking that, hey, if you think that I'm good, if there's an opportunity, go ahead and call me. And that's so non-get it factor. No way, man. We want people that are obsessed. We want people that like. Here's a saying on the film set for all departments: if you're not thinking, you're sinking. All departments. If you're not committed and don't have that fire under you from the very beginning, then you're going to be not very good. So I don't want to work with you. If you do a bad job, they're not going to call me again because you represent me. Plus, I don't want to be with somebody like that, even though you might be a really nice person. I want to work with go-getters that are obsessed about this. Now, you can see Patrick's approach. He's like totally over-prepared for this interview. He's got a whole presentation. He's willing to just give and share, and he's got this presentation. He's thought about it. We talked about this last week, days ago. He sent me the outline. Total over-preparation personality. And and just from that, I've never worked with him doing sound, but just from that, I would be like, oh yeah, I'd work with you.
And people can feel it. They will feel your energy, and it's hard to fake it, like unless you're really skilled at faking it. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would say that you have to be going on genuine emotions. If you're very serious about the craft and you're serious about this business, it will show.
Yeah.
And it's just all about like how you approach people. So I was saying, just get on sets. You could be on set as a background actor, and normally like background and crew are kind of separate, but if you have that kind of personality where people like to talk to you, you can absolutely approach the crew and get to know them, not while they're busy working and they don't have time for you, but if it happens organically and you get to strike up a conversation with a crew member, that could lead to opportunities. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't matter how you get on set, as long as you're making those connections and you show that you're serious, people will see it.